Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm working on a double page layout, and this layout is a little bit different for me because it's a little bit different style. It's more of a collage style than my standard style. So you'll see as it comes together it looks a lot different than layouts that you may have seen me do in past videos. So I have taken some mixed media paper by Vicki Boutin, and I am inking it up with this Distress ink from it's their Mowed Lawn and Twisted Citron colors, and I'm going to put kind of a heavy layer on it. And you could do that on regular cardstock. You wouldn't absolutely need mixed media paper for that because this is not a super wet technique. But I am going to add some Glimmer Mist in a couple of shades of green. And I apologize, I don't have the names of those handy, but they're really old Glimmer Mist. And I don't think Tattered Angels still even, I don't know if they don't exist or if they're just not making Glimmer Mist. But anyway, you could use any type of green watercolor. You could wet, put smoosh some of your ink down onto some packaging and wet it, and then smoosh it onto your paper. Anything like that would work. So I started out with just sprinkling it over it, but then I thought, you know what, I need a little more texture and a little bit more variations of shades of green on here. What I'm trying to do is make this look like a grassy hill. This layout is going to be about my kids doing the 4-H petting zoo at the fair. So they volunteered to work there. It was our first year in 4-H, and we didn't have any animals in any projects, but we wanted to help out at the fair, so we signed up to help other children with handling all of the different animals in the petting zoo. They had rabbits, goats, guinea pigs, chickens. I think there might have been a sheep or two. Most of my pictures are of my daughter with the goats and my son with a rabbit there, and then you can kind of see a chicken in one of the photos. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that this had kind of that farm feel to it because the whole day had a farm feel to it, and a lot of times the theme at the fair has kind of a country farm type of feel to it. So here are the photos, and what I did was I cut around the pictures, and I don't do that very often. That's like a super rare thing for me to do. Normally you get the whole 4x6 or 3x4 or whatever, 3x5 on the page, but I decided to cut around them because there was a lot of stuff in the background that just didn't have anything to do with my kids. There was like hay and random children from the community, other 4-H friends that were working the booth or had their animals at the booth. So I wanted to really just have my kids in this, and then there's another little boy that's with my son there, and my son spent a lot of time with that little boy who had never seen some of these types of animals, and so he spent a lot of time helping him handle them and just loving on those animals. And my son really enjoyed the day with this kid, or the time that he was at the petting zoo anyway. He really enjoyed that. So what I'm doing is I've cut this barn cut file, and I think that's just from the Silhouette store, and I've used some paper from, I think it's a DCWV, but it's called the Lodge Stack, and it's this red barnwood, and I thought that would be just perfect for this particular cut file because it has that barn feel. And then the front of the barn, I have the grain of the wood going the other direction just so that it doesn't look exactly the same as the bottom half of the barn. And then I'm going to take some paper that is modeled in like blacks, grays, and browns, and I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but I believe it's from that same stack, and I'm going to use that for the roof. And I really like how the whole thing came out. So the little die cuts that you see on the paper, those are from Bella Boulevard's Barnyard collection, and I think that's maybe a couple years old. I think it's the same, came out around the same time as the Pandas and Popsicles collection did. So it's been out for quite a while, and I started feeling like the animals in those die cuts were kind of on the small side for this big double page layout. It would have been perfect if I was just nestling them around 1 or 2 photos, but because it's spread out over this double page, it needed more. And I'm sitting here thinking about that, and honestly, this layout took me, I'm going to say, a couple of weeks to do, and that's not because I was actively working on it for a couple of weeks. It sat on my desk. Actually, this is not even at my house. This is at my mom's house, and I don't normally film at her house, but it sat on the desk at her house. She's got a craft table that we can kind of just leave stuff out if we want to, and it sat there for a couple weeks until I could get around to cutting some more animals on my die cut machine. So that's why it took me so long. I'm using this blue cloud paper that's from Chamel Sparkle City, and that is from, I think it's from the paper pad because it is white on the back. And I do have some of it in the double-sided paper, but I wanted to use what I could out of the paper pack because, you know, that way you're not losing anything on the back side. And it worked out perfectly for this layout. It just gives it that country farm feeling. So eventually I'm going to go over to the Silhouette store and pull out some more cut files. And what I end up downloading, they're called, it's like a sketchy horse, a sketchy cow, and a sketchy sheep. So if you like the cut files that you end up seeing on here, you can just type in sketchy before, you know, the animal name. And I don't think they had a whole bunch of other options besides those 3, but just type in sketchy and they'll come up. I just put the little die cut that's the roll of hay up in the hay loft behind the barn cut file, just to give a little color and interest back there. And then I'm going to eventually end up building my title around those clouds, and the clouds are going to get split up into the 2 pages. And here I am just kind of pulling things together, and then I do realize I still need more. The barn is not going to be enough, and I need more on the page. So right now it kind of just looks to me like, I don't know, maybe like a coloring page or something like that. It doesn't look done. So I'm going to be moving things around after I cut those cut files. I'm not going to make you sit through watching me back them or anything like that, because there's lots of videos on how to back a cut file, and you did just see me back the barn, at least partially. So here I'm going to go and come back with the cut files all ready to go, and there they are. You can see the horse, the cow. Actually I have 2 cows and 2 sheep, but I think I only end up using 1 of each, and they kind of have that kind of same flavor that the animals from the die cut pack have. And so that's why I chose those sketchy animals. And then I have this really old stamp set that I bought. Actually, I think my mom bought it really early on into my scrapbooking adventure here, and I've never really used it. I think I've used like 1 stamp out of it, and it is actually called County Fair. And I think I've used it's a pie, just a pie stamp. So I'm really happy to be using it and getting these animals on my layout. So I'm adding these as well, and they kind of have a sketchy feel too. So everything kind of has that same cartoony, sketchy feel to it, and I really like how it comes out in the end. And I'm just using some Heidi Swapp Color Shine, which happened to be sitting on the desk, to color them up. And I'm just using a water brush for that, pink for the pigs, yellow and orange for the chickens, and the stamp that says County Fair, I'm going to use a Zig Real Brush pen to color that in green. So I kind of like having a lot of different things on this layout. It kind of ties it all together nicely. It looks like because there's more than 1 of each type of animal, that it looks like it's supposed to be that way. I don't know if that made any sense at all. But because I didn't just add a horse, I added a horse, a sheep, and a cow. It looks like it's supposed to have a whole bunch of different kinds of varieties of animals on it. Now this horse, I cut him in white. I probably should have cut him in black, but I ended up using a little bit of Mr. Huey's in brown, in two different shades of brown, to color up his mane and his tail. And once I did that, he looked just fine to me. I put a little bit of the darker brown on his hooves and blended a little bit of that into his mane and tail as well. And I backed him with the same paper that I did the roof of the barn, and you'll see kind of an oval there by the pigs. I made a mud pit for them out of another portion of that same paper. It's just a darker piece. So because that paper has a lot of variation in lights and darks, I could pull from different areas and not have it look like it's all matchy-matchy. So I ended up also splitting out the photos. I put all of my son's photos on the left-hand side and my daughter's on the right-hand side. And I do like how I had it in the beginning with them intermixed. But then I thought, you know, someday if they ever want to split out their book, it'd be really handy if hers were all on one page and his were on the other, because these are done in our annual album, not specifically in his album or her album. So someday they can, you know, either fight over them or they can throw them all away or whatever. I won't be here, so I won't really care, but in the event that they do want to keep them, you know, I thought that would be a nice thing to do. So I've got everything glued down where I want it. I didn't make you sit through that. I kind of showed you as I was kind of putting things on the page where I thought they should go. So a lot of those animals are popped up onto foam tape just to give some dimension. The rooster on top of the barn is popped up. Some of the clouds are popped up. And then I've pulled some of these old stickers from my bin of random stickers, and my title is going to read 4-H County Fair Petting Zoo. And I used some of the puffy stickers from the Barnyard collection as well. The one up there by the title says Life is Better on the Farm. And then there were some speech bubbles that said like oink, moo, and things like that. So I went ahead and used those. I think the other one said neigh, so there's one by the horse, the cow, and the pigs. And I'm pretty close to the end of the layout. Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure everything is glued down really well. I know that paper wanted to pop up, so I'm just giving it a little bit of extra glue to make sure it stays on the page where it's supposed to be. And I'm pretty much going to be at the end of the layout here. I'm just adding my journaling, just one line across the bottom talking about their volunteering to help out and how much fun they had doing it. And the close-ups are coming up in just a few moments, so stick around for those. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, thanks so much for taking the time to do that as well. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.